Namaste. In our previous conversations, we have talked about Natya for enjoyment, we have talked about Natya for connection, and we have also talked about Natya as a way to navigate life through learning values. And finally, we started talking about improving expression using Natya. So, today's conversation, I want to focus a little bit on the professional interactions with learners, or an artist interaction with students, or a parent interaction with the child. So, what I feel is that one way of looking at it is that Natya you can use to make communication interesting. So, for example, with my 3-year-old grandson, we are always using Natya to make things dramatic and interesting. But I think Natya as a teacher or as a professional, I think Natya becomes a way of engaging. And I'm all seeing this even with Anant in many ways. So it's possible for him to do videos now because of all the work he's been doing in terms of through dance, for example, body position, holding himself straight, smiling, voice modulation, so many elements to communication, which theater teaches you. So if theater teaches everyone that, uh, it makes sense to think that maybe professionals would somehow draw upon that skill set as they interact with learners. And in your particular case, you have the Bharatanatyam experience, the Theatre Arts for Holistic Development experience, and Ramana Maharshi. So, teachings, life, and so forth. So, how do these three elements come together in your interaction style? And it's interesting to me because one of the things I feel about your teaching is that your interaction style is very, very consistent. We've been with you for more than 2 years, and the structure of the class is extremely consistent. The way you interact and do the lessons is very consistent. So I'm just curious about that. How do these influences shape your communication? And B, how do you get to that consistency? Which is important maybe for all learners, but for a neurodivergent one like Anant, it's really important.
Yes, yes, Ramaji. I was just thinking about this point. Then I went back to the purpose of dance. So, if you ask any senior artist about what is the purpose of dance, they would say that they have done all the dances. They have learned so many skills in dance, and they have performed in various stages. They have got awards, and they've got their bit of name and fame. But they understand that they were only the byproducts of the experience with Natya, but there is a deeper purpose of Natya. The Natya, as you told, it is a great tool to engage. One senior artist who was talking about it, and he was telling the audience will get engaged when you are engaged through the dance. So dance is a tool to engage yourself in something more deeper and more meaningful thing. And at Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, Ramana says the paramount duty of the one who desires the highest is to know oneself. And that is the basic crux of Ramana's teachings. And he nudges us to turn back and find out our own full potential. And dance is a wonderful tool which is so joyous, and it makes us understand our own uh, the limitations that we are holding on to and what we really are. And when we just meditate on how is this little movement possible by us, we understand that there's some great power which is making us. So since we have been working with the neurodivergent children and the children with various challenges, so we understand that how gifted we are. So from where does this gift come, and who has given us this gift? When we question ourselves, we turn back to that divine power which is there within each one of us. So this was my basic understanding of the purpose of dance. The purpose of dance was also to understand my own true nature, understand my own fullness. And this we wanted to share to all the children who begin their the journey in dance. It's they may learn it the hard way when they grow up to become big dancers, but we thought it's important for us to share our this joyous sharing, that the purpose of dance is actually to find happiness within, and it's not about anything which comes from outside. It's not from the applause or the appreciation that we get, or it is neither the awards or more opportunities that you're going to get, but it's about finding happiness within. So we wanted to make children aware of this purpose of dance. So that was the beginning of, as you told, the amalgamation of the dance and natya, and uh, the teachings of Ramana came into being. And how best can we teach the purpose of dance? We have all been trained in the theater arts of holistic development, which talks about you can reach a specific goal through a tool of theater activity. So what was the goal? The goal was to make them realize the purpose of dance is to get back to our own true nature. And how do we do that? We use the tool of dance. We use the tool of the adavus. We use the tool of the hand gestures, and we use the tool of the pada bedas, the shiro beda, the drishti beda. So these were used as a tool to communicate the crux of the teachings of Bhagwan Ramana, which is to turn within and know ourselves. So that was the beginning. And I have been taking dance classes. So we have been repeating the same lessons, the Adavu song, and introducing the children with the concepts within it through stories. So many repetitions, and now it has got very refined in me, and it comes very naturally. And because I have also grown through experience and my inner sadhana, that I'm able to, whenever I'm sharing the story, whenever I'm sharing the teaching or the concept, there's an inner underlying what do you say, a confidence, or inner underlying experience which is talking. That's why I think it is making sense to many people, and they are able to relate, including Anant. And as you told, even you are able to relate to that the connection that we have in the dance class. So for having that inner growth that has happened, or inner development that has happened through the repetition of the same lessons to various people. And talking about the structure, I mean, I thank theater arts for holistic development, which says that we should have a warm up, and we should have a lesson plan where the important portion is told, and we have the wrapping up, or it's called the closure. So I think this is very important in this. I think this the pattern of this session gives the structure to it. And Bharatanatyam itself is very structured. We have the Bharatanatyam classes starts with, we start with a prayer and namaskaram, and then we have to do some warm up exercises to get ready for the class. And after that we have the adavus to be done in three speeds. You start with a slow speed, and then you increase the pace of the speed, and then we start learning the items. The items are also, first we have simple items where we have few steps, then the steps are combined with abhinaya, that is the expressions. Then you have more complex ideas taught, and the stories being narrated in the dance, which is the Sanchari Abhinaya. So the list goes on. Then it's very incremental, and it's very beautiful how you can build layers, and how each dancers grow through these various layers that they learn. So I think the combination of the TAHT, the session model, and also the inbuilt uh, incremental structure of Bharatanatyam has helped me to deliver in a structured format. And of course, when the student is interested in the stories, and when they are interested in the class, and there's, you see a great joy, so the feeling is mutual. So even the faculty and also the learner both enjoy the experience of being in the class. When that happens, I think the journey is very joyous, and the learning happens very naturally.
Thank you, Ujwal. There are also some other, uh, you know, in addition to the TAHT and Bharatanatyam, I think the whole idea of Abhinaya, because you're trained not just in speech, but in if even in speech there is the intonation and modulating your voice, and when you body language, body position, how your posture, everything comes into communication. So I think maybe as theater artists, you're also trained in what I would call whole body communication, not just speech. So I always tell parents that that's one of the benefits. They ask me, why theater, why not do karate or some other thing. And I feel like one of the advantages for Anant has been that he gets the physical movement, but at the same time is getting all these layers of communication. So I think probably that consistency comes from the the training in abhinaya as well. So I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Mm. I mean, as the name itself says, the methodology called theater arts for holistic development. So the theater arts, the dance is included in that. We have the various advantages of it. We have it's a physical activity, so it's exercise for the body, and it is exercise for our little the limbs, like for example, the eyes, the ears, the nose, and the lips. So everything is totally used in dance, and every part of the body is engaged. And other than that, there is a lot of memory activity where your mind is totally engaged. So you have to remember the steps and you have to execute the step, and there is always this coordination of the hands, legs, the body, the face, the head, and the eyes, which is required in the adavus. And then when we come to abhinaya, so they need to understand the gestures and the meaning. So they're building on their vocabulary. They're learning a new language, and through that new language, they are understanding the meaning, the inner meaning, and the different ways of showing the same things. So we have this the moon being shown like this, around like this, and the moon can also be shown with this alapadmahasta. So the various ways of showing the moon, we have the crescent moon can be shown like this, the half moon can be shown like this. So the various aspects are learned. So unknowingly, it's not it's a deliberate syllabus that we have to learn, but so many things are learned unknowingly, but they are all helpful. There's a holistic development, and of course, there's this beyond all the skills, the spiritual development also happens where we start surrendering to the teacher, and we start surrendering to the art, we start surrendering to the divine power which is making us move. And this spiritual skill that one learns, it helps us at times of difficulties when there is no help being provided from outside. There is the inner help which comes and helps us. So I think there is this holistic development which happens through the dance. And then of course we have the vocabulary and the abhinaya, and to express the right way. I think it's all byproduct of this process of learning Natya.
I just wanted to comment on this a little bit from a neurodivergent perspective, because we often hear about eye contact and so many other things, but movement can be a challenge and it's a long journey. And even now there are challenges with body awareness and body positioning. And so I was just remembering just a small piece where we had that Rama looking at Sita and saying something to Lakshmana. That's something that might be very instinctive for neurotypicals, but it may have to be broken down more because it doesn't come that naturally for them to, shift their eyes and turn and talk that way. So some of the things which might be very intuitive to NTs, we never give a thought to it, but it might not be so intuitive to NDs. But therein lies the opportunity too. So, you've actually got a little, interaction scenario to play with. So just to prepare him for the dance, on the walk also, I've been doing some of that. Okay, let's, how would we look if I were pointing out this, oh, look, this new, it's spring and flowers are coming and leaves are coming. So how would you point that out and tell me? You would point the tree and then you would look at me to tell. So that's the same concept. So I'm sort of increasing that awareness of, how you attend to an object or person and talk to somebody else. So it actually also gives an opportunity for developing it, which might have to be done more explicitly for NDs. And so I guess you come back to that life is theater, theater is life
Mhm.
interplay. So just wanted to
Yes.
share that scenario.
Um, Okay, I think that the because Anant had the theater experience first. That is theater when he is working with different people. When he has a character of Sita and has a character of Lakshmana around, and he is already spoken. So we can use that scenario of the experience of being in a theater to do a solo theater where there is nobody else. You have to imagine that there is a Sita, to imagine that there is a Lakshmana. Maybe a little difficult, but it's not that he can always take the experience of being on the stage with them. And then I think I have included that part where when he calls the Lakshmana, because I knew that he's very very fond of Lakshmana being around, because in his Jatayu Moksha, because his friend Bharat was there, and then he called him, and then he was very very friendly. So I thought you call Bharat like this and you ask him.
And actually built on that. So
So.
I was talking about, okay, so Rashmi, imagine that Rashmi is standing there and Bharat standing here. So how would you do this? So I think, making it concrete like that. And you're absolutely right. Having had that theater experience first helps in, learning it. But I think it helps at the next stage of imagining, when the person is not actually there, there's no live person there for you to do that. So it's a great learning experience, and there's just a lot of very subtle things that you learn as you go through any dance experience. So I just wanted to share that because he's preparing, and hopefully we get a chance to record it today.
Wonderful.
So any other there's a couple of other points on interaction. I think one is I think it has to do with lowering stress, because before you can increase enjoyment, there's also increasing, the decreasing the stress part of it. And this may be particularly an issue with NDs, many of whom might be very resistant to demands. There's a whole, you know lot of recognition of that now, that there's demand avoidance on them, and if you put pressure on them, they're just going to back off. So I think one of the things that's really helped with your class is the extensive use of imitation. So that sort of, there's an expectation he's going to coordinate with you, but the pressure is not there, because if sometimes he's going to just not do anything for a few minutes, it's okay, and you'll pull him back in eventually. But you don't have that pressure of somebody keeping on giving you verbal instructions, and that's a particular challenge for those like Anant who have language processing challenges. So for him, if you continuously give him a whole stream of commands and he has to listen to it and respond to it, it's very difficult. So if you can just speak to a low demand style, imitation, repetition, how these variables come together in your teaching.
Mm. I mean, I always understand that the dance class itself, as I told you, it's a sadhana of getting back to our own true nature. So the idea behind the dance class was to get back to our own true nature. So the dance class was supposed to be meditative. So that was the goal that we had. So with Anant, we have been able to do that because he comes the timings for Anand's dance class is in the morning time when there is there's no much commotion outside. There are no people who are disturbing the class. So it's a huge hall, and just the me and Anant being there. And when we are having this, we usually start with a prayer, which is very very meditative, and then it is followed by the namaste, and then we have some exercise which are done very very slowly. It's not the fast power yoga kind of exercise, like slow breathing exercises. As we all know that the breathing and the mind are connected. So Ramana himself says that the breath and the mind has the same source. So if you control the breath, the mind is controlled. When the mind is controlled, then the breath is also controlled. So this helps us to calm the mind. And we always have this first adavu where we say we remember the God's power in the heart, and we smile and dance. So the smiling also adds up to it, that we are having fun. It's not very very serious. So the smile, the maybe an attempt to smile also will actually change the mood. And then as you told, there is imitation which is happening. I understand that even the neurotypical children, I don't think they can, when they're small children, if you simply ask them a question, they are like, they are afraid and they're not able to respond. Maybe they know the answer, but you need to do some nudging to be done, some prompting to be done. So I just invite the student to just imitate what I am doing. So I understand that after quite a few times of imitations, I just test whether they have understood or not by just stopping and seeing whether they're able to continue the step. So I mean, I'm sure they are with constant repetition, and once they memorize it, they'll be confident to do it without any prompting, also without any this one. So that's the underlying faith that I have. So we just have fun imitating and then learning it together. Then I mean, we wait for them to memorize it and learn. And Anand has been able to do that a great job. We have been imitating it quite a long time, but now when I saw today the Yaro Yaro being performed without any prompting, I was like really happy that he's able to do it independently. And one more thing was, we have been doing the hastas also, hasta viniyogas, and I just asked him a question. If they ask you to tell any viniyoga of your choice, what would you say? I didn't know whether Anant would answer it, but he is immediately told, I will tell Hamsa Paksha. And then he actually told the whole shloka without any mistake. I was like, okay, this is what is required. So I think we are finding some successful uh, uh, answering of the questions. So I'm very confident now.
So it's the low demand that has really helped. And like you mentioned, the other variables. And I think that's a good point. I want to come back to that. Smile, even if you're not really in a smile, that just changes the mood. And I noticed that, when we first started with you, I was actually diligently doing the adavas with him myself, because I was finding that just standing in front of a video, it's not very social to stand in front of a computer screen and smile at the computer screen. So I just started doing the adavas with him, and we were, smiling and doing it together. And so the one thing I do remember about the Krishna Dutam performance that he did, that was probably one of his most smiliest, even though other things may have been whichever way, but he had a brilliant smile in that particular performance in many places. So I think that practicing the smile, and now I notice that whenever I take pictures, quite spontaneously he smiles. So in a lot of pictures, he's definitely smiling a lot more. Not as consistent in the dance, because there are more demands on the motor system and memory and so many things. So not as consistent in the dance yet, but a lot more smiling in life now. So that's also good. The the There was one other point I was thinking of, which related to imitation, specifically for NDs. And I think there you also may have the issue of they have so many varied challenges. So Anant, because of his dance training, will very quickly imitate you in the movements, but he's more reluctant to sing. But there are others you've had who will immediately join in the singing, but will not want to move their body. So there are those kind of variables. And I think when you don't have the pressure, then they can enter wherever they want. But this also brings me into family immersion. So uh, both nurturing what they want to do and can do, and supporting where they're reluctant, family immersion can help there. So I know that Anila used to do that, because her sons would sing, but they would not want to move their body. So she would, the day-to-day practice, she would work more on the motor part of it. And in my case, what has happened is I've noticed that somehow he was very comfortable in your class, and the very second day or something, he started trying to imitate you. So I've just tried to, encourage that in small ways. So, for example, when he did that Think Blocks video with about the trees, so I had him sing that line about the man being a walking tree, and that couple of lines. So I'm just encouraging him in small ways, and we want to learn the chanting. And whatever that gets his, opens up the verbal thing more for him. So I think if you can just comment a little bit on the family immersion and how, there are a couple of things in family immersion. One, I feel, is when you're doing the lesson, it's actually a transfer of the interaction skills because the parents don't have the theater training, right? So when we see you do things a certain way, so that's what I'm not doing it as a mother, but more as a grandmother, right? So I do a lot of, whatever stories you have said, and of course we add our own too. We add our own, but we also use a lot of however you have narrated the story in the Balakendra. I use it with Ishan and Sanjay, and so they have a great time with it. And then we build on that. And now Sanjay has started tuning in, and he watches hastas when Anant does them. He watches them with great interest. So uh, it's just something that you can watch somebody. So you don't have to learn the whole vast field of theater, but if you have access to a skilled theater artist, then you learn enough to use it in your life. So if you can speak to the family immersion, and I know uh, we can not always meet at the same time, which is sort of the big challenge in making the family immersion class run. But I think even the resources we have on our YouTube channel can help. And that's why it's been good that we've had Anant in many of the videos, because if only you're demonstrating, they can't see the interaction between, how's the guide interacting with the student. But because we have Anant in many of those videos, people can actually watch that. And I think it will give them a sense of, you know, how you're doing the guiding without talking too much about it. If they just see a few videos, I think they're going to get a sense of it. So if you can just comment on family immersion and interactions.
No, the family immersion model which we came about was actually to invite the family to have Natya experience and have fun together. So I think it's like we have two students there with me. There's one is a parent and one is the kid, and both of them are trying out the activities together, and the goal is to enjoy the activity. So when the enjoyment happens, is the uh, underlying force, then all the other things happens naturally. So that was the basic idea behind family immersion model. And as you told, surely they can help. They can actually, when they see their parents doing, it's easier for them to imitate. Like to see somebody in the computer and to imitate is, it's difficult. But if you see somebody who is beside you physically and doing the activity, then it's easy for them to imitate, and easy for them to sometimes the words are not heard, but easy for them to catch the words from the parents and do it. And it always opens up this one. So the ones they have learned a concept in the class, they can always use that concept in their daily life. If they've learned a song, a fruit song, and when they are actually dealing with the fruits, when they are eating a fruit, or when they're if they've gone to a market to get the fruits, so they can relate to that learning, and then they can reiterate what they've learned through that theater activity at their time of leisure, or that the convenient time, or at the time when the child is in a good mood, and then they can this learning will go ahead, and then they can deepen their learning. So that was the basic idea. So, but yeah, we will work on, as you told, we will work on their wonderful resources already there in Anand's Adventures, which they can pick it up and start working. And we'll also maybe bring out more such work with Anand and my class, or what we can do. So we'll have more resources, and they can pick it up and then do, and then we can always plan to have some contact classes or some short workshops where we can have a discussion, and see where it goes and how they can take that forward. You're on mute, I
The
think.
feedback I've got from some parents is they do like just having the resources on Anand's adventures. And that's part of the reason I wanted to do these conversation videos, because when you just see the final video there, you may not, we've talked for more than half an hour now, I think. And there's just so many elements to that, the communication that's actually there in every small fruit song or animal song. There's so much behind it. So just by seeing the 2 minutes, people cannot appreciate everything that's going into it. So I'm hoping that this series of conversation videos fills that gap. And if they see the conversation videos and then see those videos, I think they'll be, more able to appreciate what's going on and use it. And we also started that little, I created that little reel summarizing some key points and things like that, that 4 tips, and we'll keep building that as we go. And I think that kind of thing will also further help access it. And then we can do things like worksheets to again reinforce the kind of concepts we're talking about. So I think we're running out of time. So let's just do a recap. So I'll leave it to you to summarize a bit, and then I'll share a few comments and we can end the session.
Yes. Uh, to summarize, it's the theater arts for holistic development with the structure of the Bharatanatyam and also the values of the Ramana's teachings. When they all come together, they can create magic, and we see that in the Anand's learning graph and the family immersion model, where the family is also part of the learning experience, as we see that Ramaji and Anand are part of this Natya journey. When it brings great joy, and also it brings great learning, and it's a great opportunity uh, to express and enjoy and to explore various things. So I think all the families should come together and have a Natya experience through theatre arts for holistic development.
So thank you, Ujwal. And I think this is an important theme for me because as parents of neurodivergent children from many, many years, we have been learning about co-regulation, about how to interact with the child, because there's a lot of disruption that happens because the child is having some challenges in communication, but it's no longer just a child issue. Because, for example, if a child is not expressing verbally or non-verbally what they're wanting or expressing, it also affects the parents' communication. So one of the things we learned, and we had a family immersion experience many years ago, and this was their point, that you really have to work on it at a family level because it is not just a child issue. So if a child is having communication difficulties, it's going to impact parent-child communication and family systems and everything else. So I think that's why I'm drawn to the family immersion model always. But knowing about co-regulation, now there is that same talk of co-regulation, but in different ways. So, for example, there are people talking about how you can't really just use compliance based models, and you need to work on co-regulation, especially for those NDs who may have a lot of interoception challenges, and there are things going on with inside them that they're not able to express, and you just force them to comply. Then you're further teaching them to ignore what they're really feeling and just do because somebody's telling them to do it. So there's a lot of such discussion going on, and I know personally that co-regulation is a very powerful tool and a game changer. And what I have realized in working with you is, so we've known about co-regulation for maybe now 20 plus years, but and we've also learned techniques, use more non-verbal communication, don't, lower performance demands. All these we have learned. But what we had not had until we met you was a very consistent, systematic, way of interacting. So it has just been a pretty fascinating for me to watch that class to class to class, you have a very, very, very consistent interaction style. And so that makes co-regulation just happen because, when Anand comes in, it's very comfortable for him. He knows exactly how the class is going to go, and he's at ease and he's just there. So I wish parents of younger children will realize that, how Natya can actually equip them to co-regulate with their child, not only for enjoyment, but also to lower stress, and it can help both parent and child communicate. So that was the reason I wanted to have this conversation on Natya, using the Natya skills for communication. So even if parents pick up a little bit of it, and some of it we instinctively do, when we talk to young children, we use big eyes, big gestures. We already do some of that, but THD is a little bit more of a structured use of theater tools. So I think that's the operative word. So if you learn to do it in a more structured way, then maybe you can do co-regulation more effectively. So that's the thought that led to this conversation. Thank you.